different and weird today. I'm going to explain it here at the top, but I'm kind of assuming that people are going to jump in midstream. So I'll probably be saying a lot of the same stuff over and over. But this is my Whoosh or Whoosh. It's a Zwift alternative. I've been trying out a bunch of different indoor platforms, kind of like I always am. I've played around with this one a decent bit recently. Haven't made any content about it. I've just been playing it here and there. I'll explain a little bit more about it later, more in depth about the platform. This is not a full review of the platform or anything. Um, so for several years, Zwift would create a UCI Worlds course every year based on the World Championship, Road World Championship. That's why we've got Richmond, Harrogate on Zwift. And then in 2020, they decided to do the Paris map for the virtual Tour de France, Paris and the France maps, rather than a world championship. And then it seems like they kind of have stopped doing that. So last year, RGT did a course based on the Worlds route that was kind of like unofficial. They didn't have a real deal with the UCI. So I guess this year, Whoosh has seen that as an opportunity, and we have this Australia map here. So we got a race starting on this Australia map here in just a minute. I am going to participate. Before I do that real quick, I want to show, looks like they've been teasing this for a while. Secondary power source, so in-game dual recording. Could be interesting for racing if they get that together at some point. But I am going to jump into this race and just like preview the Worlds course. So this is just the city circuit. The men's World Championship on Sunday is going to be doing one loop out to this big mountain and then several of the city circuit. This is that city circuit that they're going to do a bunch of times. And this is what most of the racing will take place on. Oh no, is this going to be a situation where there's no one else real here? Well, I'm not really going to race this. I'm trying to keep my powder dry. I've got a real cyclocross race coming up on Sunday. So I really just want to get in here and hopefully there will be some more real people. I've done other events on Whoosh and most of them are populated with a bunch of bots that ride at like a very steady wattage. And they don't make it super easy to know who is a bot and who is not a bot. I think the fact that there's only one other guy here means this might be a real race. So sorry to this guy. I'm not going to really race you. I'm going to talk about UCI Worlds. So I'll get into a little bit more of like what Whoosh is right now before we start. Whoosh is basically a Zwift clone. It's very similar to Zwift in a lot of ways. I mean, you just look at like, there's a menu right there with the camera angles. If you're free riding, there's a bunch more options there. It looks almost exactly like Zwift. The pairing screen, which I got to before I started streaming, looks a lot like Zwift. I think I'm not a patent lawyer, but I think if Whoosh was based in the US, they might be facing some suits from Zwift, and maybe they are, I don't know. But brings me to the second big point and like a huge asterisk here. Whoosh is a UAE based clone of Zwift cycling simulator. So they are funded by a petrostate, which, you know, is weird and questionable, and they are maybe stealing Zwift's intellectual property, which is weird and questionable. But with all that said, it does exist and it is free. And it is also, I gotta say, better than I thought it would be. So this program is totally free. What held me back from trying it for a long time is that it was only available on mobile devices, so like tablets and stuff. And I've got a whole pain cave set up here based around a PC, which I've got a video about that PC build. But they finally released a PC version of this a couple months ago. And I mean, as you can see, it doesn't look It's not the best looking game in the world, but it's not bad, especially compared to some of the other things that are out there. All right, here we go. I hope this guy's not trying to really race. So this is supposedly Wollongong. We'll see how the scenery looks compared to the real thing, and I think we'll get the punchy climb that they're going to be doing over and over and over. And I'll talk a little bit more about that race. I partially wanted to do this to check out this course because looking at the map of this city circuit, it looks really technical. And I wonder if that's not going to play into the hands of a rider with a little bit more technical skill. I mean, everyone at the world championship level is good, but when you think about like a Wout van Aert or a Mathieu van der Poel, those guys from cyclocross are so used to a lot of constant 90-degree and even 180-degree cornering and keeping their cool. Yeah, so the drafting in this game is a little weird. The sense of speed, I feel like I'm going really slow here for this to be like a 1.5% downhill. So you can see it up there on the mini map. You got all the stuff you would expect out of a game. Rider list over there, mini map. Honestly, the mini map with the grade profile is pretty good. It has a calorie burn, which is interesting. Not something I particularly care about, but I feel like a lot of casual users probably do. There's also an in-game workout creator that's almost exactly like Zwift's workout creator, and that's something that's actually kind of hard to find for free. It's hard to find a free program, and again, this is Whoosh Cycling. It's free, and this is not my endorsement of it. This is merely my acknowledgement that it's here and it exists, and my own curiosity about riding the Worlds course and wanting to kind of preview that before the men's race on Sunday. But having said all that, it's kind of hard to find a program, a free cycling program that includes a workout builder, an erg mode workout builder, where you can also do your workouts. There are tools like ZWO Factory online that are free that allow you to make a workout, but then you're going to have to put that in another program to use it. If anybody knows of one, please let me know, but I can't think of another free to use program where on the free version there is an in-game workout creator. There's also like full training plans in here for free. Let me know if that's something y'all would like to see a deep dive into, is like the quality of the training plans built into this game. So we got like a false flat uphill here, pretty close to right out the gate. Just a couple of K from the start. Now, the men's race will do a loop of the big mountain before they come back to this. So this will be right after they hit the start finish every lap once they start the laps of the short circuit. I think this is going to be a really interesting course for Worlds, though. I like that it's not just a summit finish, so you kind of know it's going to be like same guys who are finishing the big mountain stages. I mean, probably Pogacar at this point. And it's not a straight up sprint, so you're not going to have a boring race that, you know, the sprinters teams control it, and then you got maybe 4 or 5 guys that can win it, depending on who gets lucky. It's going to be a real, like, the racers make the race kind of scenario, I think, because they've got the big mountain early. They're going out to Mount Kira, I believe, is the big climb they do before they hit this circuit. And that's within the first, like, 1/5 of the race. So if you wanted to put in a big dig there and get a lot of time as one of those climbers, you probably could, but then you're going to be solo or a small group for a really, really long time. So then the question is like, do those teams, and everyone's building their teams around punchers, kind of guys who can win a 1 day race, not necessarily a climber or a sprinter, which is why I mentioned all of the cyclocross guys. Those are guys that most of them are not big enough to be a pure sprinter, although Wout's proven that he can win a sprint against the top guys, given the right circumstances. Not a pure sprinter, but not a pure climber. Also, Wout has won, was it the Telegraph stage? He won that huge climbing stage of the tour last year when he won a sprint stage, a mountaintop finish, and a TT stage. So it's going to be an all-arounder guy like that, I would think, because they're going to do so much climbing on this little circuit. And I don't think, because of how technical this is, and like getting back to like Whoosh, how this looks pretty good and looks pretty consistent, like scenery wise. It's not going to be, curb cut for curb cut, building for building, but looks fairly consistent overall with what I've seen of Wollongong from the individual time trial and the junior men's road race. So, I mean, again, it's not the best computer game. If you put this up next to like a AAA computer game release, it's not that good. But if you put it up to the other cycling simulators out there, it's decent. And then if you recognize that it's also free, that's pretty impressive. What I will say, this is technically a race, and there was only one other guy here. And most of the events, I have done some events on this thing. There's a little sprint segment here. So I think this race was maybe actually like Fondo style, where it's based on these sprint segments alone. Oh, here's the guy. I'm not going to sprint. I'm just going to stand a little bit. I have a Stages bike. Many buyers on the Facebook page ask how often I use my bike without subscription. Stages don't provide any software. Yeah. So this is a free one. I would also say everyone knows that I love this, but RGT is a free software that I would recommend. It's probably better for racing also. Oh, it looks like that guy got a sprint jersey because he pipped me there. Very nice. But yeah, RGT has a free version. And I think if you want to race or do group events, this is kind of where I was going with what I was just saying. If you want to do group events, I don't think Whoosh is really the place for you. Although they do have these like My Bunch rides that I think go off twice an hour, and or at least once an hour, something like that. And it's basically a ride where everyone is a pace partner, and the color jersey they have on shows you what pace they're going to ride. So you can basically say like, oh, I want to do, 2 watts a kilo today. That's the red jerseys. Everybody goes, you just kind of get in with the red jersey group, and then it's basically a pace partner ride, which is like splits the difference between the convenience of the pace partners on Zwift and the like your ability to dial it in with a program like RGT. So on RGT, you can set up your own custom rides, and you can say how many bots you want to be on the ride, how hard you want those bots to ride. You can invite other real people if you want. Me too, honestly. I think it's Ken's day. I'm racing my way into fitness, I'm peaking for Sunday. So this may be Ken's day. But yeah, like I think this program looks honestly about as good as RGT on the real road courses. which is impressive, I think. The rider movements, how up and down they are, gets a little weird. I was about to say, the avatars are exactly what I was about to get into. Like, the fact that they're holding on this way irks me a little bit. The fact that there's like no side to side motion in them irks me a little bit. Maybe there's like a speed where they switch to the tops because it thinks you're maybe climbing or something. Let's see what they do when I put down a little bit more power. Nothing. Oh, little sprint there. Had to hit 500 watts for the avatar to really change what he was doing. So, not the best avatar motion, but that is one thing I think Zwift, other than like the cartoonishness of the avatars, I think Zwift has the motion looks pretty good now, especially the current iteration of pack dynamics. Okay, here's a little ramp. There's a lot of these little steep ramps. 6% around this right-hand corner. This is really going to play into the hands of the cyclocross guys on Sunday. Because these little, like a steep ramp that takes you, I don't know, 10, 20 seconds to get up. That's a cyclocross course is that all day. Patrick, there are some there. It seems like more and more there are Zwift races that are separated by category, and also using the category enforcement system. So that might be. I mean, if you just look for races that have the category enforcement, that might fix that for you. I do think Zwift is. I mean, I've been on Zwift a ton recently. It's just the most convenient, and I've mostly been using the trainer for convenience when I've got limited time and I need some motivation. A lot of times I'm just flipping on a pace partner ride, and then I've got two screens here. I'm looking at Whoosh on this one, and then I've got my stream on this one. If I'm not streaming, I'll put recently cyclocross race on the second one, and I'm just using the pace partner ride to like keep me from idling and doing nothing. But I also don't love putting on like, I use erg mode for recovery rides sometimes, but it's like mentally easier if I'm not just seeing a flat line at like 180 watts. I don't know if get rolling is. I've only done one of those. I honestly don't understand the get rolling thing on Zwift, and I don't love that it replaced the regular Crit City races. I might be in the minority on this, but I enjoyed the Crit City races a decent bit. There was almost always a race where Downtown Dolphin course was like, it was interesting enough. It had that little climb in it. It had the roller coaster section. You know, it wasn't just a total nothing burger of a course like some of the super flat ones. And they were a decent length in terms of like, if I was pressed for time, I could kind of always find one that I could fit in and either do two of them or do one of them and then do a like 30-minute erg mode workout to kind of like round out a hard hour of training. I'm pretty impressed with like just the variety of visual assets in this game. If you look, almost any cycling simulator game, there's some amount of like we made a bollard and then just repeated it. And even with the buildings, there's like kind of the cheaper the game is. It's another like Zwift is pretty impressive on this front. There are a lot of different models of buildings in Zwift. The cheaper the game is, the more they're reusing the same pre-rendered assets over and over. I think maybe the most impressive one on that front is Virtue Pro, which is still in beta, but I've been playing that for a long time. And there's an insane amount of courses on there that are like AI made to some degree. Whoa, little light up tunnel thing here. All right, is this actually on the world's course? The light up tunnel? If they're going through this, I haven't seen it. Maybe this is letting me know for Whoosh sake there's like a segment starting or something. Maybe that might be a warning. I'm about to go into this blue kite. All right, so I think this is the start of the main punchy climb for the city circuit of the World's Road Race. So I've heard this thing is pretty steep. We'll see. This is kind of what I wanted to. I mean, obviously, I'm going to do it at a amateur putting around pace, and that pro men's field is going to do it at an absolutely blistering pace. But we'll see. Yeah, I'll leave this here. Oh, do I have the option on here to get rid of this? Yeah. God, that is something I've wanted out of Zwift for so long, is the ability to just hide those when they pop up. For a streamer, that's so helpful. I really liked racing on the Central Park loop on Tuesday at ZRL. That's I wouldn't say one of my favorites, but it's interesting watching all of those ZRL races throughout the day. There were several where, because of all those little ramps, small groups of like 5 to 10 were able to actually get away and stay away. Oh, I guess I got a little ring it. We got almost 10% here. This is feeling a lot like a Birmingham, Alabama. Oh, I'll show you again. I hid the segment time thing that pops up right here. Sprint segment 1. Click on this little arrow and it goes away. I know on Zwift, if you're on iPad, you can do that. Apparently, if you're on iPad, you can swipe those things away. But for me, the main function of getting rid of it, when you're doing a stream like this, I like to keep my stream set up as clean as possible, as minimal as possible. So it doesn't really help me to have that function only on a device that doesn't stream. I think they probably make that an option on devices like iPads and phones that have a smaller screen, just so that you can like get rid of things and see more. Oh, I'm gonna ride through. Riding through. Hey, I got the jersey. That's what I've heard, is that you can do that on iPad. I'm not sure on the latest version if you can. I'm not sure what dictates like where I am on the road here. I feel like, yeah, the uprightness of that is very weird. And the fact that I don't go to the drops or even the hoods on that downhill, I guess because I'm not putting out many watts. This game also feels like it does the thing where it really lets your flywheel of your trainer, it like takes resistance out on the downhill, which does feel more realistic, but this is a problem I have on Virtue Pro. I will often just run out of gears because I'm on a downhill and the pack is moving fast, and it'll essentially take all of the resistance off of my trainer, like take the baseline resistance all the way down, and it makes it too easy to pedal. So I'm in my 11. Whoop, went through the banner again. So small issue there maybe. All right, so we got like that first little ramp and then straight into this bigger ramp. And they are going to do this, I believe it's 7 times. Ken still got the sprint jersey. I don't know if we've got any more sprint segments. We're about halfway through, but this is the big elevation. 17. Ooh, you guys seeing that? 17.4, 17.5. That's a steep ramp. We've got a couple of things around here in Birmingham, Alabama that are like in that neighborhood in terms of steepness. And those are like, if I'm in my 36, 28, I'm barely grinding up them. That is brutally steep. Still on 15%. So anyone who's not super punchy and honestly on the smaller side, like, I'll go ahead and call this shot. I don't think this is an Alaphilippe course. I think Alaphilippe will be there and he'll be working. He'll be doing stuff. But I think they're going to be able to wear him down. He's too big of a boy for this. Yeah, Rob, Mountain Brook, pretty much all the hills that go like from downtown Birmingham over the hill on the southern side. I was telling someone the other day that there was one year, like 2017 or 2018, I was about as fit as I had ever been, especially like VO2 max and anaerobically. And I was living downtown every week on my way to Tuesday World Championship, Tuesday Night Worlds. I would basically choose a different way over the mountain and just try to get to KOM. And so I've got a bunch of like steep 1 to 2 minute KOMs from Southside up into Mountain Brook, which is like the first suburb to the south of Birmingham, Alabama. Man, this hill is brutal. I feel like people were making a lot of the predictions, the prognostications I've seen about the race. We're making a big deal of the earlier climb, the loop they're only going to do one time on the way into Wollongong. But this climb is, I'm going to say, going to be more significant to the actual World Championship race because they have to do it so many more times, including on the last lap. So they're going to face this one over and over and over and over. And the first climb is so far out that you could thin the field there, but you really couldn't. It would be insane for someone to stick a move from there that is the move, even if they get a small group away on that climb, a small group of good climbers. They would have to all be very technically proficient, which plenty of guys who have good watts per kilo, but maybe are not the best on a technical downtown circuit. I'm thinking your that video of Phil Guyman crashing in Paris-Roubaix, 90-degree corner, or Roglic famously finds ways to crash, new ways to crash often, and Pogačar also crashes. Not Pogačar, sorry. Mike Woods has been known to crash out of races. It's running down my mental list of like high watt per kilo guys. No, Pogačar is pretty good. So I read somewhere that he knows he's not going to be able to. I read an interview with him, maybe it was Cycling Tips. He said he knows he's not going to be able to drop Van Aert and Van der Poel, which I think is astute. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does. He's going to have to leave it to this climb on the last lap, try to break away here and hold it. The problem with that is, if it's a really select group at that point, no one's going to let him go. This could be a good course for, back through, a guy like a Taco Vanderhoorn, someone who is very punchy, very tenacious, good on the flats also, like very aerodynamic, and is not seen as like a huge perennial favorite. Because I think a guy like that could get himself into Taco Vanderhorn again. A guy like that could get himself into a select group and then on like 3 to go, 2 to go on one of these climbs, attack the group. And let's say the other guys in that group are your favorites, your Wouts and your Matthews. Your favorites are going to look at each other and want each other to respond. And that's where a Taco Vanderhorn could put some serious time into them. It's just going to be a matter of like that right person who is capable of a big ride, but maybe not viewed in the bunch as like the main favorite. Because I think probably the big favorites are each going to have their like mental checklist of like 4 or 5 guys that they will absolutely not let ride away from them. And so they will all be marking each other. But you can't mark every move, especially with a course this technical and this steep. You can't mark every single move early on. And so it's going to be in the favor of teams that don't have like a clearly well-defined leader of just lobbing some bombs and seeing what they can get done like mid-race. Especially if it's a course like this with the technicality and the repeated short climb. This could be a course where we don't really have much of a peloton. There's like, you know, a group of 20 and then a group of 40 and then a group of 20 and then a group of 5. And it's just kind of like broken up. Like each lap, each of the groups is kind of breaking a little bit more. And they're just all chasing each other. But there's not like huge peloton, small breakaway. Now, I keep my words on that. They could set a reasonable tempo on all the climbs so that they stay together. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to crash on this parkour, Patrick. That's one of the reasons I wanted to ride it, or ride this virtual version of it or whatever, which again, anybody joining late, this is Whoosh. It's like basically a clone of Zwift, maybe even to the point of like, they may have gone too far in the copying of Zwift. It's like very close, but it's free and they made this world's course. So I wanted to try it out. And I've used Whoosh a little bit. I've been impressed with what it is for a free program in a few spots, on a few fronts. One of them is just like the fact that it is free and looks pretty decent. Now, most of the worlds, because it is a UAE made program, UAE backed program, they're actually a sponsor of UAE Team Emirates. So if you look on the UAE Team Emirates jerseys, there's a Whoosh logo like somewhere around here. Supposedly, the UAE guys are using it to train, although I've seen some of those guys on Zwift. I've never seen any of those guys on Whoosh, provided I have not been on Whoosh as much. Although, if we're talking erg mode workouts, it is just as easy to make and execute an erg mode workout on here as it is on Zwift, because it's basically a copy of the exact same interface. Maybe I'll show that. It looks like I'm 4K from finishing this lap. I guess once I finish this lap, I'll show you what the workout builder looks like. But yeah, Patrick, there's a lot of places. I mean, like 90-degree corner right here, 90-degree corner coming up, 90-degree corner after that. And on this game, they're pretty sweeping. But I have a feeling that the real life, oh no, this one pinches pretty good. Like, imagine coming into that corner full gas. If there are really all those bollards on the outside, that's how do I think Keegan Swinson will get on? Good, I hope. It really just depends how aggressive he is, I think. He's obviously got the aerobic ability, like I was just saying. I think all the cyclocross guys that have really transferred over to road. Oh, does anybody know if like Gianni Vermeersch or like Tom Mewson, any of the other like cyclocross kind of. Ooh, here's a steep one. This little twisty. What is this guy? Haven't heard anyone talk about the 270-degree 11% there. That's crazy. Yeah, I haven't seen any of those like kind of guys that were maybe like top 10 threats in the World Cup cross circuit that have transitioned over to road, but those guys could be MVPs, as they say on the Slow Ride podcast. Not sure if those guys are starting, but and if they're from the same country, because these will be country-based teams, not the trade teams. So most of the guys I'm talking about are with Alpecin Phoenix, which started as a cyclocross team. But getting back to Keegan, I think he has the same like profile as a rider, or did when he was racing World Cup. So he was racing World Cup XC a few years ago. He's transitioned over, as a lot of people have, to the longer gravel and like Leadville type off-road racing. I think he's still got a lot of punchiness. This is going to be a course that really rewards a good technical rider, as I was just saying. A lot of 90-degree corners. He's going to be very at home on that stuff. It's really just a matter of whether or not he is aggressive enough at the start. Maybe not even the start, just if he is at the right moment ahead of the split. I think he's another guy like a Taco Vanderhorn I was talking about a minute ago, who could get into one of those smaller moves and become extremely dangerous because no one sees him as a favorite. It would require him being in the right move, though, which some of that is going to be luck. Like, you're not going to be able to just ride the front the whole time, especially as a sort of unknown guy on the American team. For those that don't know, Keegan Swenson is an American mountain biker who got the call up to race. I think because so a lot of the good Americans are not going to be there. It looks like Sepp Kuss not going to be there. Lawson Craddock not going to be there. It's a couple others. Do we have Matteo Jorgensen? I think maybe. But there were a couple of good Americans that could not make it. And for whatever reason, Keegan, who's a mountain biker, got the call up. So it is very interesting to see how he's going to go. He's been doing really well in the Lifetime Grand Prix, which is like the big gravel series this year in America. And that's where a lot of the money and attention and all that is going. Hey, how's it going? Welcome, Carlo. Talking about Keegan Swenson's chances in the World Championship. So I would say Keegan is definitely like a really good wild card bet. Men's race is on Sunday. I mean, I think that may depend on where in the world you are with the time change, but it's Sunday in Australia for sure, which I believe it's actually going to be late at night here in America on American time. But this course is, as I kind of expected, people have been downplaying the technical nature. I think that may factor in more than people have been talking about. And I think we're going to see the guys who maybe would have had the watts per kilo to do it on the climbs filtered out if they don't also have the descending skill. And not just descending, because like descending is one skill, but like technical city riding, like criterium riding, is kind of another skill. And I think that's where you're going to see really the cyclocrossers. I keep coming back to it. Maybe I'm a cyclocross homer. I do love cyclocross. Cyclocross is the best form of bike racing. And I think that's been borne out in the last few years with the rise of your Pidcocks. But Pidcocks, Van Aerts, Van der Poels, even Pogačar is like the Slovenian cross champion, right? So I think riding cyclocross forces you to become a really good rider. It's basically making you do intervals while also doing technical skills drills. But I think that type of riding is really going to pay off on a course like this. Like, we got this little chicane right here. These guys are hitting this chicane going, I don't know, 45K an hour. A guy who's used to doing that in cross races, and not just used to it, like comfortable with it, but also physiologically trained for it in a way where they can stop pedaling for a few seconds and it's actual rest, like their heart rate comes down quickly. I think that's really going to pay off in a big way. One thing I am noticing, there's like no in-game sound in this game. In almost every other cycling simulator, when you pass fans like this, ooh, so we got this little ramp like just over 1K out. Yeah, and most of them, we'd be hearing these fans as we pass them and hearing some amount of like ambient road noise. I'm getting nothing. I'm getting nothing here. But yeah, we got a little sneaky little kick here that's almost exactly 1K from the finish line. This is where a guy who, again, maybe a Pogacar, a guy who doesn't want to leave it to a sprint, has it to be here, and maybe we'll hope that other sprinters will look at each other. Why is one of those falling over? One of the barricades was flopped over on its side. That's a weird choice. It seems like in a perfect virtual world, you could keep those all upright, but maybe that's the sake of realism. Yeah, no problem. But yeah, I was going to say that ramp might be a place you would see someone launch. I'll get into this question though. A bit off the subject here, getting into virtual cycling, still getting to know the apps. Which cycling app do you think is best for someone who wants to ride real world routes? Ooh, okay. There are several good ones, and it really depends what you care about. I think if you want to see the scenery of the real world routes, you might want to go with Be Cool. This is one I've never actually recommended to anyone before. I've streamed it a little bit on here, but Be Cool has both the like video based and the virtual. And if you want to see the real scenery, you can do the video based, and it's like crowdsourced from the user base. So they have a ton of video based routes on there. Rouvy I have not done, but Rouvy is like all video based, but they don't have, oh, here's the lighthouse. That's kind of the iconic thing of Wollongong, right? So they got that in there. But if you're looking for competition, I would say RGT. RGT is you're going to be able to ride whatever route you want. You can custom make it with GPX data, which is fairly easy to do. But the scenery is like procedurally generated, so it's not going to look like the place you're riding. All right, won the race. Zwift has a lot of routes, but even the real world ones are not like particularly true to real life. So I've got this Whoosh. I've got it connected to my Strava. You can connect it to Training Peaks in today's plan. And let's go ahead and upload that and look at the... So yeah, Zwift is the easiest, but even like its France World is not based on real France. So if riding real terrain is your goal with indoor cycling, I would say like a Rouvy or a Be Cool if you want to see the scenery, but RGT otherwise. RGT, especially if what you want to do, if the reason you want to ride real routes is that you want to like simulate, like you got an Ironman coming up and you want to ride your Ironman course virtually, then RGT is the way to do that, I would say. You can ride it with bots to pace you You can create your own route, but you're not going to see as much of the scenery. So I hope that's helpful. I don't know, Daniel, let me know if that's your concern, if you got some other goal with your indoor virtual cycling. I think a lot of people are going to be having those questions right now as we kind of come back into the indoor cycling time of year. So that's why I wanted to start like branching out a little bit and looking at Whoosh and some of the other apps. Before I get off here, I did want to show the workout generator. Again, this is a free app, and all these workouts are just in here. So I don't know how good these are. Although classic over-unders, that's looking pretty solid to me. But yeah, there's like all of these buckets and then a ton of free. I don't like those. I don't love the where it ramps up. Those are always goofy. But the big thing here for me is the workout creator. It's basically the Zwift workout creator, but you can use it for free. So, I mean, it's like, drag and drop. You can do all of the things you can do in the Zwift one pretty much. Add a text event, tell yourself pedal harder or whatever. You can take these up and down as needed. So, it is weird to backstitch this. So I can put in 200, make that up and down. But yeah, you can create your own. So I am basically self-coached, and I generally know like what I'm working towards. So right now I'm working towards cyclocross. So I'll like create an example workout that I would use for cyclocross just for the sake of like showing this workout generator. So I'd have a little warm up, 5 minutes. That looks good. And then I'm going to hit let's see, I'm probably going to do some 1 minute on. So 1 minute at 4:55 is pretty good. And then 1 minute off. Not that. 1. So yeah, just the fact that there is a workout generator in here where I can go through and do this for free. So what I would do is like 1 minute on, 1 minute off. If anyone's wondering what I was driving at there. But yeah, that's my Whoosh. That's the Wollongong course. You can download this and ride it if you want to check it out for yourself. It is totally free. And yeah, I'm going to discard this workout. I wanted to take a look at it before Worlds on Sunday. I'm excited to see that. I'm going to be racing myself on Sunday, but luckily with the time change in Australia, it will, luckily with the time change, the Worlds race will not be at the same time as my race. So I'll have my feet up drinking a beet juice or whatever. Does it do Bluetooth only or Ant Plus also? This program, I believe, does only, let's go to the pairing screen. I believe this does only Bluetooth. I'm not seeing an option for Ant Plus. Now, if you're asking about RGT or Be Cool, those both do both. I think that Whoosh is limited to Bluetooth only. If there is an option, yeah, I'm not finding an option for anything other than Bluetooth. Most every power device transmits in both, though. Anyway, thanks y'all for hanging out. Appreciate it. And see you guys next week. I'll probably do some e-racing, probably do ZRL live over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Jonathan Crane, if you want to watch that. But always